Hi, everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Becky, who is the managing partner at Digital Gearbox with us. Hey, Becky, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
All good, Becky. Thank you so much for accepting our request to come on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Lovely. Becky, before we move any forward, let's get to know the human behind the mic. Why don't you talk us through your journey so far and how did you land up in the digital marketing space? And also about Digital Gearbox, what are your core competencies? What you guys specialize in? And then we kick it off from there.
Sure. So, where to begin? My background, I actually did a psychology degree at the University of Leeds in the UK. And I knew pretty quickly that I did not want to be a psychologist, but I was really interested in behavior and without sounding bad, the influencing people side of psychology. I'd also always had an interest in advertising. I was going to say marketing. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really know what marketing was particularly other than advertising. Yeah, I finished my degree, didn't really know where to get started, if I'm honest, and fell into a business development, a sales role at a industrial plastics company, which was actually fantastic for getting a real basis for my commercial understanding of how businesses work. It was an international company with different departments. So I really saw what business is all about. They had a marketing department. So I finally understood really what marketing was all about. And I jumped at an opportunity to move into that department after a couple of years, where I actually became their email marketing specialist, which was great. And I quickly fell in love with marketing and the ability to talk to customers and influence the decisions on whether they're going to buy with us. And I loved coming up with campaign ideas. And even though it was industrial plastics, not very exciting or sexy, but I loved the challenge and I did it in 13 different languages. Obviously, with translation help, I'm not that smart with all my languages. And it was a real good time and a real good introduction into marketing. And then really after a few years of doing that for one company, I was looking for something new and there was an opportunity to join an agency which would offer me the opportunity to get exposure to other industries, but also the opportunity to try different channels, of pay per click being one of them. Within about 3 months of joining this agency, they decided to relaunch as a specialist pay per click agency. And that was where Digital Gearbox was born. And yeah, so I had to not throw it out the window, but I stopped doing email marketing. I very quickly just did pay per click all the time. And I learned very quickly on the job. I had a number of accounts where I had a great support team at the time who trained me up. I did all the Google examinations and I just got stuck in really. And here I am 11 years later, still doing the same thing. But the difference being that I am now the managing director and owner of the business. So when I started, I was a mere executive and I worked my way up the ranks. And then 7 years ago, the previous owner was looking to exit, so I should say 8 years ago. And we had a conversation and she asked if I'd like to take over the ownership. And by that point, she was in Cornwall and I was running the day-to-day operations anyway. I was beginning to hit the ceiling with that position. Like I'd been doing it. I wasn't doing anything new. So it seemed like a really great opportunity to try something new and try running a business. So yeah, that was my journey into Digital Gearbox. And that is what we do.
Lovely. Quite a journey, I must say, Becky. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Starting an executive, now owning the business. Lovely, lovely. Great. And quite a natural progression, I should say, from psychology to getting sales and then marketing. Your earlier roles must have played some sort of an impact, what you did with the next one, right? So that is quite nice.
Yes. Yeah. I think actually for anyone interested in marketing, doing a role in sales, especially where you have two distinct departments, can be very helpful because I think the relationship between sales and marketing team is infamous for being a challenging one. And
Yeah.
living on the other side and knowing what it's like to not have leads and to be like, how do we get leads? And really that's down to the marketing team. But it is a harmonious relationship sales and marketing. If you're not getting the leads, then the sales department have nothing to do. But if the sales team aren't feeding back on quality of leads, then the marketing might be bringing the wrong people. So yeah, it was a fantastic grounding to have. And sales at the end of the day is why we do marketing. And I think some marketing people forget that. They get carried away in the look and feel of things, but at the end of the day, we're doing it for sales. So it's something that
I'm very happy you said that. I'm very happy
Yeah.
you said that. And pointing out the elephant in the room, right? The fight between MQLs and SQLs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking about your journey at Digital Gearbox, which has been filled with both personal and professional milestones, how do you manage to balance the demands of parenthood with the responsibilities of running a successful business? I can absolutely relate and vouch in terms of how hectic the life of an agency owner can be, right? So give
Yeah.
us some insights on that.
Yeah, so I had a very steep learning curve with that, because not only did I take over the agency 7 years ago, I fell pregnant about 3 months after doing that. So
Okay.
I had to juggle both learning how to run a business with learning how to change nappies and cope without sleep. Yeah, the balance is hard. It's something that's hard to get right. I don't think anyone knows exactly what is the right amount of balance, but I'd say in terms of my experience, it was very different first time round and second time round. So the first time the agency was much smaller. There was just me and 2 others, and actually those 2 others departed before my baby was due. So when I was pregnant, there was only me for a month or 2, and I knew I needed to hire someone who could help me very quickly. And
Absolutely.
it needed to be someone who I didn't have to train up, who could step in, who could look after my clients and knew pay-per-click well enough to carry on deliver the results we were getting. And at that point, I didn't have enough confidence and knowledge to feel confident in outsourcing. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to risk that. So I needed someone I could trust. And thankfully I found someone who stepped in and did exactly what I needed them to do. But I did have to go back to work very quickly. As a business owner, you do anyway. You don't really get that time off. But I was back in accounts, still doing pay-per-click very quickly after the birth of my first daughter. But one of the benefits of being a business owner is you decide when you work and when you work. And I had flexibility. I could work when she was asleep. And I think no matter how hard the balance is, you have to remember the benefits of carving out this kind of life, that you do have that flexibility. You can take the time off to do the school drop off and pick up. You can take that time off to go see a play because it's your life that you've mapped out. So yeah, and then second time round, thankfully I'd grown the business enough to have a team, and I'd had trusted people that had worked with me for a few years who I had extreme confidence in that they could carry on things without me. I'd got to a point where I wasn't so involved in the delivery. So it was just a matter of the business admin and running the business that I had to hand over things to. But I was able to take a month off before the baby arrived, which last time I was working until a week after my due date. So there was a big difference. And I managed to have 3 full months off, which doesn't sound like long compared to what some people have, but it's a big difference to the first time. I managed to have 3 whole months where I could just be in my newborn baby bubble. And even now I still get to have a couple of days just one-on-one with my toddler, which I'm very thankful for.
Lovely, lovely. I'm glad you did manage your way through, and then by the time your second baby was born, you could take out that time. And so there are challenges when you grow inside the organization, being an employee to then owning up the business, right? It's a different ball game to growing while you're switching organizations, right? But inside the company, if you grow up the ladder, it has its own challenges. Talk us through your experiences about those challenging aspects of your transition there.
Yeah, it was a bigger adjustment than I thought it'd be, to be honest. I think until you step into the shoes of owning a business, you don't realize how many other things that the owner is thinking about at any one time. So finances was probably the biggest hurdle or challenge, I'm going to say, a challenge that I felt when I took over the business, like dealing with an accountant. Like I use my experience with this to think how our clients think, because when I took over, suddenly I was given reports with numbers I didn't understand. Like I didn't know about tax. I didn't know about quarterly VAT returns. I didn't know about corporation tax. Like all of a sudden there's a huge bill and I'm like, where did this come from? Cash flow being another one. And I felt silly having to ask an accountant what numbers I should care about. Like I'd be given reports with so many numbers and I didn't know which ones were important, which ones I needed to check or any of that. So I've taken my experience with that kind of our customers and how they feel when they receive a report. And I don't want them to feel like they can't ask questions and that there's any weird numbers that, because you can just have numbers for numbers' sake. And I used to be given huge reports, like 12 pages reports of finances. And it was just overwhelming and I didn't understand and I didn't know how to make decisions off the back of it. So getting to grips with what I needed to care about was the first thing. And secondly, working with the right people. So that accountant, I clearly realized they are not the right partner for me because they were giving me too much. They weren't explaining things. And as soon as I had a question, they were running their payment clock. So I felt like I couldn't because it was going to just cost me more money. So finding a partner that understood my background and wanted to work with a business like me, with someone who was new, who was happy to explain, that was happy to educate me, and also someone that I trusted that was going to give me the best advice in that front. Because when you're new to these numbers, they're big and scary and you don't know if you're making the right decision. So having not only one person in that respect as well, obviously an accountant is an important one, but having other business owners that you can talk to and get their opinions on things as well was something that I very quickly learned was very important. So I joined a couple of networking groups and had built up some relationships of people that I could talk to in confidence and that would support me. And they taught me as well the importance of working on the business and not just in the business. Again, that was a mindset shift because I've been so used to just doing a delivery, getting things done, getting results. But knowing that if I could carve out a day a week just to make some small changes to the business, it's going to speed up what we do or deliver better results or allow us to increase our margins in some way, is how you make your business successful. So they were all big changes during that transition, but I think I got there over time.
Absolutely. Finance can be daunting. I totally agree with you on that. It is a different game altogether, right? When I'm handling finances, keeping the numbers intact. So again, I can totally understand what you must have gone through there, right? But yeah, Digital Gearbox as an agency has grown and evolved under your leadership. For you, what you believe sets you guys apart from other agencies out there? Because PPC can be, again, as a very competitive landscape, right? PPC advertising. And then your clients in this particular niche, they need results like from as of yesterday, right? So how have you tackled those challenges from an agency standpoint?
Kind of answering the first part, what sets us apart? There's lots of people that do what we do. There's lots of people that do it for cheaper. There's lots of people that do it for more expensive. So we're in the middle there. We're specialists in what we do. So there's lots of people who offer digital marketing solutions. So one way that we've done that is by focusing on PPC rather than being a full house agency, which allows us to give paid campaigns the time and the attention that they need. Because there's a bit of a cloud out there, people saying that it's the dark arts and it's like almost trying to confuse people and scare them. Whereas I don't think it is that. I think it's relatively straightforward, but you do just need time and attention on the campaigns to make them work. So by being specialists, we can be the masters of one rather than I'm forgetting the same, the one who's trying to do too much. But aside from that, I think we could specialize further. We could choose a certain vertical, but we haven't opted to do that yet. And that's because at the moment we're able to deliver results across many different industries and verticals. So we haven't felt the need to specialize even further. And actually, where we're based, there aren't too many PPC specialists. So at the moment, that's as far as we need to specialize. But in terms of again, what sets us apart, I think the relationships we make with our clients is one thing. We do want to be establishing collaborative and transparent partnerships with the people we work with. So we are very good at saying to people that we don't think it's going to work, no, we're not going to work with you because we don't want to waste people's money. And we're very good at not trying to cover up if results aren't great. Instead, we're focused on what solutions we can put in place to try and make results better. So it's the relationships we build and making sure that we're also getting back what we need from our customers to make it work, because it does take effort on both sides. We're not just an outsourced supplier option to people. Whilst we don't want to take up people's time, we need feedback. Going back to that sales and marketing relationship, if we're sending people leads, we need to know if they're quality leads from the people that we work with. We need to know if they're converting. We need to know what margins and ROAS targets people need to achieve for it to make commercial sense. So we ask a lot of questions.
Which is important.
It is important. And yeah, it's just that collaborative nature that I think sets us apart. Because some people say it, but they don't live and breathe it. And there's the cliche comment that people say we care. We genuinely really do care about the success of our relationships more than the campaigns, because we want to have the honest conversations to make it really work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe from a personal standpoint for our listeners today, you have quite clearly risen up the ladder, and started from scratch, quite literally, right? So, what is a piece of advice you want to give to our young listeners today who are trying to make a mark in this digital marketing niche?
Good question. I think you want to make sure that you are not limiting your knowledge by just asking your current employer for access to paid training courses. I think that was a mistake I made. I remember being young and being like, put me on a course, please, put me on a course. Whereas actually there's so much free content out there online, on YouTube, on Google. You can go ahead and find it and start learning yourself. You don't need to be in a classroom setting. You don't need to throw a load of money at it. Just get stuck in and start learning. I'd also say just be curious, because I think I had interests in other areas of marketing, but because I was just doing email marketing, I was like, oh, I should just focus on reading about email marketing things. But the more you can understand about other marketing channels, the more you can often enhance the one that you are offering, because they all work together. It's a multi-channel thing these days. If you can get one part of the machine whirring a little bit better, quite often it will have a positive impact on your piece as well. So be curious, look online, and just give it a go.
Lovely. Gita, Becky, thank you so much for the wonderful insights that you have shared today, and more importantly, for sharing more about your journey and how good you go through and rise up the ladder. So it has been a brilliant conversation. So thank you so much once again. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks again for inviting me on. I hope it was helpful for someone.